Solution. I'm your host, Beverly Beal. Join us as we explore the science of curiosity, share stories of people who've used curiosity to improve their lives, and maybe inspire some aha moments along the way. Hello and welcome to the Curiosity Solution. This is, I believe, episode 20, I think, 19 or 20. I gotta look again. Today on our episode, on our little fun time here, we have the incomparable Meshell Baker. Meshell and I met when she still lived in the Austin area, but she has now expanded back into the Dallas, Texas market, as far as living there. But right before we hit the record button, she was telling me about some international speaking that she's going to be doing. I'm so excited. So the way that Meshell responded when I asked her to describe what her current profession was, honestly, she kind of gave a little boring description. I'm sorry, Meshell. It was boring. It's like, well, I speak and workshop at women's conferences, blah, blah, blah. No, what she has here on her tagline is Chief Confidence Igniter. That's who Meshell is. She has a way of inspiring people to rise to the fullest of their potential, sometimes simply by just walking into the room and lighting it up with her smile. So, Meshell, I'm going to give you another opportunity to describe a little bit more what you do rather than just speaking from, it's like, yeah, well, I kind of do this. I kind of do the workshops. Give us the Meshell that everybody knows and loves, or that they should know and love.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And I am the Chief Confidence Igniter. What I'm a master at is translating the perception of chaos into a practical and profitable confidence. And I work with teams, organizations. I'm known for confidence, imposter syndrome, and leadership work. And it really is just the story people tell themselves that they have not taken the opportunity to press pause and rewrite the story. I mean, that's an oversimplification. And the reality is, if you're listening to this, you ask yourself, when is the last time you sat still and rewrote your story? I guarantee most people listening have not done it.
No, because number one, you said the word, these two little words that I have such a hard time with personally: sitting still. Now, mentally, I have rewritten my story multiple times, but the sitting still part, but you don't have to sit still to do that, right? You can actually speak it into a recorder, right?
You can, and there is still a lot of data and research to support what happens when you write something out with your actual physical hand. It's different from keyboard or writing on your smartphone. The action of utilizing your actual hand imprints it on you way more powerfully than any other form of capturing that information does.
And you know what? I've heard that as well. That is actually why, when I'm working with clients with the feng shui and the intuitive work that I do, is I also tell people to handwrite out the recipe for what is either it's their love, they're bringing a love a romantic partner in, or bringing in the perfect job. So. Again, I do know the power of sitting still and writing things down, but that doesn't mean that I have, that's an easy thing for me. So let me ask you, Meshell, how long have you been doing this? And how did you know that you were going to be this Chief Confidence Igniter, this amazing human extraordinaire?
Well, I did not know this. I've been doing what I've been doing I've been in business for myself for 10 years. It has been the most difficult and challenging thing I've ever done. Your business only grows to the level that you grow. So that's the
Mm.
one thing that I know most people aren't aware of. They're like, oh, I'm going to quit my job, go start my own business, right? Whatever baggage you have, you're carrying right then at that moment, you take it into your business and it multiplies exponentially immediately, right?
Mm.
So, yeah, I would say, how did I know? I was introduced in Austin. I cannot think of the gentleman's name, but I received an award and he introduced me. I mean, his introduction was so powerful. Like I was speechless. Like I had to tell the audience when I was accepting it to speak for like 5 minutes, y'all gonna need to give me a minute to wrap my thoughts around the eloquentness of that introduction, because I just need to bask in it. I don't even want to talk. I just want to sit over here in my glow for a minute, right? But he said, Fear Liberator. And I never forgot that. And that just stuck with me because it was something that I had heard repeatedly. People would say, tell Meshell anything, she can turn it into a positive. That was what I was known for. And that was what I basically did, liberate people from the confines of their mind. And I just asked myself, what would that look like as a moniker, as something that I was known for? And I came up with Chief Confidence Igniter. And I remember writing it out and hesitating. When I first put this on LinkedIn and started saying, I didn't believe it. I was just like, oh my God, am I really going to say this? And if I say it, I have to live up to it. And then as I recognize, what the work I do, okay. So if you're going to say this, just be it. What would it, so my question always is, what would a chief confidence igniter do? How would she show up? How would she, deliver a speech? How would she coach someone? How would she, facilitate a workshop? And that's simply what I do.
The whole point of me starting this podcast, the curiosity solution, you are right there embodying what it means to work to live in that space of curiosity and wonder, and then walk through the door into the version of you that you began to know was possible. So when you are doing that kind of work, with curiosity, first of all, you said that you've been doing this now for 10 years. What had you been doing prior to that inspired you to jump into working for yourself?
Oh wow, we're gonna hit a huge reverse button on this. So I'm just gonna take you back a couple of decades. When I was 13, I had three businesses. So my father owns his own business and has most of my life as I can remember. My grandfather had a farm. So my grandfather was known for his fruit and vegetable stand, and people would drive miles to go to. His name was Gabriel Baker. My grandfather was actually a sharecropper, and my dad picked cotton. And so him and his siblings actually purchased my grandparents' property. So they were property owners, before they, left this earth. So at 13, I wanted to follow in his footsteps. My parents is divorced, so he wasn't in the household. So I, on my own, could bake, and it was the thing I loved. And I baked and I babysat, and I was a child whisperer. Like people they love having me bake. They're like, how do you get them kids to act so good, right? Amazing that I never had children because I was really good at it, right? And I sewed. So I can sew till tailor level. And so I had these three businesses, they all thrive. However, I was not in an environment that fostered support. I had no mentors, I had no support. And what was happening were the adults around me at the time just took my money. And so I just gave in to the forces that be in my urban neighborhood. And I tell people the things that transpired in my household with alcoholic men, and then it just eroded my confidence. And so by the time I was 20, I was incarcerated. So fast forward, that experience changed me. I knew from there what I could do well was work. That was the one thing I seemed to be able to do very well. Was I was a very diligent, hard worker. I didn't argue. I showed up. You gave me a job. I'd always exceed your expectations. That was because it just made life easy. I never understood why people went to work and tried not to work. That just seemed like that was harder to me, right? And from that, and I've always had this joviality about me since I was a kid. Smiled a lot, full face, and it just imbued people to me. And wherever I worked, I would always have, I call them angels, people who would just show up and be my mentors without me asking, and just impart wisdom and speak life into me and change my directions and redirect me. And from that, I ended up at Howard University as a freshman at 25. I ended up working for Merck Sharp and Dome and throughout pharmaceuticals and medical devices and biotech, and got my MBA, promoted to be a comptroller at a manufacturing plant in Austin. And so that's how I ended up relocating from New York to Austin. And I was intentionally wanting to move there because my parents are to Texas, because my parents had relocated to Dallas with my sister, who had almost died for her fourth time, near-death experience. So I wanted to be closer to family. And when I moved, I discovered that the main school for adult visually impaired, because she's legally blind, was in Austin. So she actually got to attend that school because I had relocated to Austin, Texas. There's no way my mother, who lived in Dallas, would have allowed my sister to do that, not be close. Like, there's no way. Someone in the family has to be closer in case of emergency, right?
Right. Wow.
I was there. So that changed my life. I remember I was baking cookies and brownies to take, or cupcakes and cookies or something, to take up to the dorms where she lives. She had relocated, was in a program 9 months, having a blast, time of her life. And I was going up to visit to check on her. And I always brought stuff for her and her classmates. And I still remember, I get chills standing in the kitchen. It was like someone said, "What are you going to do when she graduates?" And I was like, because my parents live in a city that has no public transportation. And for impaired people, that you're landlocked. If they don't take you, you can't go anywhere. You can't get that little DART bus or anything, right? You don't have access to public transportation, basically. And I just knew in that moment that I would take her. And so she ended up graduating, living with me. I couldn't do the 10-state. I had a 10-state territory sales job. I gave them 30 days notice. And 6 days after giving notice, met a woman at a conference who invited me to a women's networking meeting. The speaker, Patty DiNucci, who's in Austin, spoke on vision versus goals. And I realized I had been chasing goals. I had not clearly defined my vision, my legacy. I was just trying to get the next promotion, the next house, the next car, the next job. It was just the next. And then every time I got it, I almost felt depressed. Once I accomplished it, it felt like a depression, a wave of disappointment. And then I would go chase something else. But when you get to a certain age, you get tired of the chase. Now I clearly understand what a midlife crisis is. You doing what you think you should do, not clear on why it's not fulfilling you.
So Patty, I know Patty, and Patty's been a guest on my show too. And
lovely.
Yeah, so she's a lovely human. I can't wait to tell her that that we had this little wonderful God wink to say, "Oh, see, it's all working." Vision versus goals. Wow. That makes me so sad hearing you talk about how, what a go-getter you were at 13 with those businesses, and also how demoralizing it had to be to have your efforts be subsumed by addiction, essentially. I mean, addiction is one of those diseases that has so many tentacles, and the fact that it tied you up for a while, but also gave you a breather to when even. How long were you incarcerated? Was it just like a couple?
No, it was less than a year. So
Okay.
I was fortunate that my mom and the pastor from my youth wrote. He wrote and went and did work on my behalf, and they got me released.
That's good.
on
Yeah.
probation. So, but it was enough for me to recognize that, and the path that I was on was I was going to end up there. So I say I'm fortunate that I ended up there early, right? That I could, because I think about people who don't end up have that whole life of living like that, end up there when they're like 30, 40, and then try to change their life. Now you've got a whole hot mess of kids and like, yeah, it's just, I believe I was fortunate.
Those are the kind of, I like to call them universal hard redirects.
Yes.
Some people like to call them the cosmic 2x4.
Never heard that, but I love it. I'm going to have to add that to the repertoire.
Absolutely. Repurpose away. For me, the cosmic 2x4 was getting a breast cancer diagnosis at 36 with no family history. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I get to go through all the chemo and the radiation and the surgeries and all the things? And okay, so, but that's okay because it brought me to where I am now. But again, when you think back to the like 12 and 3/4 age, as you're getting, you're having such a good time watching your father and do his business and watching your grandfather succeed with his farm, and that curiosity of, well, how can I do this? And then you start to get the confidence to do those. Where did that confidence in your body start? Where does it bubble up? Can you remember what it was like back then, and has it changed now?
I'll be honest, I don't know if I can necessarily remember clearly back then, but I do know that in saying it, the feeling in me is that it's never changed, and it begins in my chest. So it's like my heart gets full. So I always think of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. You remember how his heart was at the end? That's how I literally feel like that, right? And I know I'm in alignment, and then I get and then my body gets tingly, like I get the goosies on my arm, and I know. And so what I've learned to do as an adult after the suppression of childhood was I've relearned to I've learn to recalibrate my body triggers, because what happened is when you're taught, when you're suppressed, when you got all these adults around you and all these dream killers and all these negative people, you speak it out loud and they just shoot you down. They just kill it. They kill it. And so what happens is you get rewired to, instead of being curious about what's happening in your body, you suppress it because the history is now that it doesn't lead to anywhere good.
Well, and worse, not only does it not lead to anywhere good, then when you have those dream killers, you can, especially as a child, you can begin to internalize curiosity as being dangerous. Not just that that you have to suppress it, but that curiosity literally could be damaging, because you then have this outside force coming at you, and they're telling you that, oh, you're stupid for even thinking you could do that. So when you're talking about earlier about how you're addressing imposter syndrome, I do find it interesting that yes, I know men suffer from imposter syndrome too, but for women, it seems as if they, like men, they feel the imposter syndrome and do it anyway. Too many times it seems like many women, they stop themselves as soon as they begin to feel a little bit unnerved or uncomfortable. It's like, oh no, never mind. I can't do that. How do you actually help people move past that? Because I think that's a really big issue.
Yes, great question. And interestingly enough, there are men who, as the data has evolved over the years, the increase in men experiencing it is just it's moving up at a fast rate and catching up with women. You got to know that, you look at these manscaped, well manicured men, and so they're starting to have just as much. Like if I look at another reel of a man getting a weave or right, or getting his eyebrows like I'm old school, right? I like mine's a little on the rough around the edges. So it's becoming challenging, right? They are flaunting themselves just as much as women, just like women wanted sugar daddies, men want sugar mamas now. So we are starting to see like the tides turn. So I say all that to say, what imposter basically is, it's that feeling that you're not good enough, right? And that you're going to be found out. So there is a secret that you feel about yourself because you're not voiced it out loud. So there's this way, some kind of way that you feel about yourself that's inadequate or insecure or not good enough, or maybe there's something trauma that you've experienced through your life that you're hiding, but you have it inside of yourself and you've not voiced it, you've not dealt with it, you've not addressed it. So it shows up in what if somebody finds out, right? And it can, and in a professional way, it's like, even though you've got all these accolades and you're doing well, you still don't believe in your capability. So it always shows up that way. So the first thing to address is, and I find that majority of people who are experiencing imposter syndrome, they feel like an imposter because they haven't decided who they want it to be.
Hence the need to write out who
I know
are you?
Simplifying some of the stuff here, but the reality is, once you decide who you want to be and you become him or her, then the imposter starts to dissipate. It will still show up periodically, and you'll have a pause or a hesitation. And in the midst of that pause and hesitation, you have now equipped yourself. So you go, no, we don't do that anymore. And you move forward. Right. So if you listen to anyone that has incredible success, they are still going out of their comfort zone. The minute you step out of your comfort zone, the minute you do something you've never done before, you will have feelings of imposter. You're going to have uncertainty. You're going to have nerves. You're going to have hesitation and doubt. It's just that you have fueled yourself so that in the midst of that, you move forward. Confidence is a deposit. And if you haven't made deposits regularly, stop looking for it.
Oh my gosh, I have to write this down. Confidence is a deposit. That is such a wonderful phrase. I may have to borrow that too.
Well, just quote me, please.
I absolutely will quote you, Meshell Baker. Yeah. So no, but that's key. And again, I think a lot of times we are, as a society, we're taught that running on empty is a badge of honor. That the constant busyness is the only way to be. And if you don't refill your bank, if you don't refill yourself, there's nothing to withdraw from. So as you're going out and you're igniting everybody else's confidence and you're battling, this being this fabulous fear liberator. I love that. How do you refill your own bank?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, as I said, it's a deposit. So, I have a non negotiable morning routine. So, I have a morning routine, an afternoon routine, and a end of the day routine. So, I'm constantly filling my tank to overflow. So, I have more than enough. And that still requires, there are days where I got to phone a friend, right? Because something transpired that I was like, not like, oh, it feels unfair, or it was unplanned or unexpected. That hits everybody. So, and I was like explaining to anyone who's listening to me and my clients. So any coaching client that I work with, they're required to create morning routines. I tell people, if you don't master your morning, you will not slay your day. Like every as soon as you get up, life is coming for you. Life is coming for you. It's coming faster and faster and faster. Everybody outside of you is about themselves. They're not about you. They're about themselves. So if you don't make yourself a priority, why would you expect someone else to? If you're not investing in yourself, why would you expect someone else to? Like, so many people are getting upset that somebody isn't doing something for them. I guarantee that person is not doing something consistently for themselves, because if they were, they wouldn't be bothered with people who are not doing stuff for them. You walk away.
So what is your morning routine? Are you willing to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So as soon as I wake up, my first thing out of my, I thank I thank God. So I call my higher power God. You can call him God, universe, divine, Buddha, Allah, the source, whatever your term is. I like God. I thank God that I get to be a blessing another day. I thank you for another day that I get to be a blessing. And then I actually have a vision that I listen to, and then I do a meditation, and then I do a little bit of journaling. Right. And then depending on if I stayed up too late or not, I'll get up and exercise and walk. So I'll either do that in the morning or later that afternoon. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. I love that.
And the thing is, so what people don't realize with the morning, with the routines, it's the consistency. Right. So what happens is people do it for a period of time and say it doesn't work. The challenge is that it will always work as long as you work it.
Yep. Yep.
And the minute it starts working, they generally stop doing it. So it has this, I can't think of the correct term right now, but there's always this period where like you're building up a reservoir. So you're building up a reservoir in the beginning, and you generally, most of my clients don't see impact until about week 3, 4.
Okay.
With the consistency. And I never ask them if they're doing it. I can tell by the 3rd week, 4th week, when they get on a call with me, if they're doing it. I never say, are you doing it? I just go, like, by that period, I just simply ask them, so what's happening with your morning routine? Right. And I know what they're going to start. I know they're going to start stuttering and having excuses, because by the 3rd week, how they respond and how they talk to me changes. They don't see it yet. I do.
Changes how?
I can't even tell you specifically. It's different for every person. Okay. Right. No one has actually asked me that question before, so I never even really thought about it as a form, like a formulaic, how are they actually changing? I just absolutely know from their response. And these are one-on-one clients. So I really,
okay. Yeah, no, I'd be curious just to see again, are they showing up? Are they sitting straight, or do they have a different aura about them? When you are asking the questions, it sounds to me like what I'm inferring here is that they simply have a much better clarity of what their purpose is and what is fueling their vision. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's as big as the purpose or the vision at that point, because we're only at 3 or 4 weeks. It's just more about the constant and the energy. So one of the things that I know that I do is I emit a lot of energy. I was just talking to one of the companies that I'm working with, and the lady was just like, oh my God, we cannot wait to have you here. She's like, I can't even believe I'm on the phone with you and I'm tingling, right? We can't wait to get you here in person. This is unreal. I don't even know how you do that. And we can't wait for you to help our people to do that too. Right. So
right.
What happens is when someone works with me consistently, that starts to happen to them. Right. So I'm not making them me. I'm showing them how to generate their own unique confidence through themselves.
You're the igniter.
It starts to come through. Like I always tell people, I'm not the ride, I'm the guide. Right.
There you go. I like it.
I'm not the ride, I'm the guide. And you will be completely transformed after working with me. And you will be so innate and ingrained and integrated into who you are. You can't not do it. You can't not be it. And other people will experience it just by you being you. And that's what makes it so fun. You don't have to try to do anything. You just get to be yourself, and it becomes contagious. It's authentic. It's attractive and magnetic. It's powerful.
Wow. Yeah. But like I said, again, you've got that igniter part of your title.
Yes.
You're lighting the flame, lighting the candle within these other people.
Yes.
You had yours blown out several times growing up, and you still managed to find a way to reignite it. And now you're that's how you're sharing things. And so that's so cool. So one of the things that I like to also talk a little bit about are what is it right now that in business or your life, what, however, um, that you're kind of fleshing out? Because obviously, as business owners, there's always the I always like encourage everybody to think about life as, you've got in a gardening terms. So you everybody has a weed, everybody has a seed, and everybody has a harvest. So the weed is, okay, what's the little annoying problem thing that I have to, like, nip in the bud, or pull out, or figure out how to deal with. The seed is, what are you beginning to do? What kind of, what's kind of percolating under there. And then the harvest is a success that you're celebrating. So you don't necessarily have to go through the whole thing, but is there any of those three things that you'd like to share, just to kind of help people get an idea of, like, your creative problem solving abilities? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love curiosity, because you're forced to look at things, or you get to look at things from all kinds of different perspectives.
Yes. I love the question. Interestingly enough, the reason I love this curiosity is that I'm known as a creative catalyst. So people around me, I strategy calls. People love having me on strategy calls, on leadership teams. Whenever I'm there, it becomes expansive and explosive quick.
Mm.
And that's because I truly believe in the power of people, right? I believe that we have like this, when you think about the energy of at our cellular level, it could send a rocket into space. So we are infinite in our abilities. So for me, my seeds right now is, I am working with someone, because I've been really great at the word. So my greatest challenge is, when it comes to business and structure and all of that stuff, it has been, how do I want to say this? It has been it has been my kryptonite, and I have avoided it, and so to the point where I can't avoid it anymore. So it's either you learn it, and that's where I finally got a great coach last year, probably Q4 last year, and she really was able to speak to me in a way. So one of the things I recognize is I hear different, and I just hear different. So I require, because I'm such a confidence igniter, I am very persnickety about words. So there's certain words that I hear that people use quite frequently that don't foster anything. They just
Those empty buzzwords that that just kind of float out there, that just completely lose all meaning. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yes. So having someone speak to me and guide me in a way that helped me to learn to embrace, right, the activity. So I have a whole new, I felt like I got my mojo back. Like when I first started in business, I had all that drive. I had lost it. I was floundering and just kind of getting by. And so that has been huge. So the seeds of working with someone to start creating like some subscription, because what people constantly say when I speak, when I do these workshops, these webinars, they are like, I could listen to you all the time. Like, how do I have you in my pocket? Why can't I hear you every morning? That kind of thing. So learning to respond to that being my number one request, that and a book. So I also have a person I'm working with to complete a book so that we can have that out by Q4. Especially to have it out by the time I hit Germany. That's my goal right now, to have that
Germany. Say some more about Germany. Is this your first time speaking internationally?
No, I've spoken internationally before. It'll be my first time in Germany. So I've spoken in Vancouver, and I've spoken in London pre-COVID, and so now I'll be going to Germany. Yeah, and then I do keynote at a women's retreat in Montego Bay at the end of October. I need to post that so we can invite people.
Yes.
We got to get that up so I can invite people who want to come, because there's still some spaces left.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like such a good time. I went on our honeymoon was in Jamaica, and it's a lovely country.
Yeah.
So Yes. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. Um, so because we've covered a lot of ground very quickly. Um, your best people to okay, let me kind of back up a little bit. When you're talking about your business and how you kind of felt like you lost your mojo. Um, one of the but you're doing good now with this new business coach who's able
Yeah.
to help communicate more with you.
Yes.
um it's something that I actually have started doing for myself, is thinking of my business as my partner. And so, like a business partner. So, I've always loved working with teams. I love working with people. um Collaboration is my happy place. And for the longest time, I felt very lonely in my business until I began to switch my mindset and look at my business as if it were its own person, and visualizing my feng shui, the intuitive interior, as it's as a human, as an individual. And then you give that individual its own personality. You give it, like, is it a man, is it a woman, how does it look, is it old, is it young, are they well dressed, or are they friendly, or are they just a little baby sitting in the corner sucking on their thumb going, I don't know what to do. And if that's the case, then that's a conversation you have to have with that business in collaboration. Like, okay, what do you need to grow big and strong? So for me, that's how I've had to really reacquaint myself with the partner, because I mean, yes, I run my business just as you run your business, and yet there still is a separation, because there are things that I do that I would never do in my business. So, when I say all of this and you're hearing this, how is that feeling for you? Does that seem like what you're already doing intuitively?
Um, no, I don't know if I necessarily. I think of my activities as more. I vibrate at a different level when I do the activities. I do it with the intention that anything that I'm doing is going to be incredibly beneficial to the clients that I serve. So that's the way. I mean, it was my energy, right? So
Mhm.
it again, just instead of like, oh my God, I have to do this, and so that is what generally happens in solopreneurship. You have the part like the deliverables is what we love, especially when you're a conscious entrepreneur, heart-based driven entrepreneur. We love the deliverables. It's the back end stuff that usually trips us up, right? And
Yeah.
that was what was tripping me up, and not understanding that. So that's how, becoming a part of the Shift Co community, co-founder, I'm on the leadership with it, and then just going through the trainings and recognizing that some of the training I might need to take 3 or 4 times, right? So this is where I've just really come to understand is that you just do it until I get it. And the chances of me taking one class on a subject matter and being a master at it is out. That's utterly ridiculous. However, that's what is often spoken when people are pitching you at all these things, like these little 20-minute, 30-minute speeches they're giving you to sell you some product to make you believe that you're going to have some mastery by signing up for something. It's not going
Yeah.
to happen.
No.
Right? It takes, it's repetition is the mother of all success. So this is why I'm very honest around people. When I work with clients one-on-one, I tell them this will be the hardest thing you've ever done, because you're gonna feel pain that you never felt before and nobody's touching you. This will be the hardest thing. And I promise you, the promise that I can make you is you do the work and you go through it, you will become a different person at the end. You will be so elated and proud of yourself and completely transformed. That is, I
You,
promise that. And I've not failed on that promise. And that
you
you cannot
know,
tell. And the one thing I do is whenever somebody want to work with me, I give them a list of former clients and they can call them. And all my farms, you can call a client from 5 years ago, 1 year ago, 1 month, and they will all answer the phone.
wow, that's incredible. As you were describing that, talking about how this is the most painful process, I had this image in my head of Michelangelo chipping away the marble that was not David. And the chipping away process is not comfortable. And
No.
there, I'm sure, were times when something big broke off, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so naked now. No, you're just exposing the beauty and the glory that's underneath.
Yeah.
Um, but no,
Yeah.
I agree. The
Yeah.
the repetition, man, that's key. That's one of the reasons why sometimes people are surprised when I will take another beginner feng shui course from a different teacher that I've studied with in the past,
Right.
because everybody has a different perspective. And there will be something that comes out of whatever teaching, whatever thing I'm listening to, that is like, oh, I didn't get that the first time, or it just hit differently this time because you're a different person. You've had different experiences and you can take more in.
Yeah.
So, like with you, Meshell, when you're talking about when you're in alignment, your heart just expands real big. Your capacity to absorb is also bigger. So, that's just a really great description
Yeah,
of learning.
absolutely. And I love, like you mentioned about, taking the courses again. I use sports as an analogy because it's easy to see that, and there's always anybody can attribute to some athleticism where there's a GOAT, the greatest of all times.
Mm.
Like, and I love listening to them and watching their docudramas and docuseries and all those things, because if you ever listen to them, they have no concept of failure and they have no concept of stopping, right? They're not thinking that I'm going to get somewhere at a certain ordained point in time. They're not looking for a specific result. They're just looking to be better than they were.
Mm.
Right? Even if they win the game, they still want to be better the next game. They still want to be better the next game. How can I tweak and refine this, right? And always looking at who am I playing against next. So it's preparation. And this is what the thing that so many people are looking for, a break. They're looking for something to happen by a specified um, time. And that's what the killer is, when you can let go of that and just focus on developing yourself and being a master at your craft, being it, doing it so many times that it becomes easier or simplified because now it's ingrained into you who you are. That's when success really starts to happen.
Yeah, because you're building muscle memory.
Right.
And everybody says, it's once you learn how to ride a bike, you never forget. I don't necessarily know that my balance agrees with that, but I know how to get on a bike and move. Uh,
Yeah.
but you're right, building up that confidence and building up the resiliency. That's how you're able to keep moving. Again, I come back to the fact that you've really walked this walk, you've walked your talk. And I know that, this past 10 years of being your own business owner has not been easy. What would you say was like when you had those moments where it's like, okay, I don't know what the heck I'm doing anymore. Was there ever a point in this 10 years when you got so low that you were ready to just go back to a job, a regular uh, job?
Yes. Yes. There's been many times where I've wanted to, and I've actually put together a resume. I've actually submitted a resume. Have I ever been on an interview? I felt like I had to think about that. I don't think I've ever made it that far as the interview. And I always ask God, if this is what you have me to do, open the door, close the door. So the door is never open for the job. So I know that means that it's not, that time, and
Mhm.
to keep moving forward. And I also remember the vision that was given to me, right? So I can't imagine, I listen and I can't imagine dying and not doing everything I could to fulfill and love the vision. To me, that would be more disappointing than anything else. The what if.
Yeah, I love that you have such a strong spiritual life. Um, would you say that your curiosity has informed your spiritual life, or that your spiritual life has informed your curiosity?
My spiritual life informed my curiosity. I mean, I remember when I first decided to be an entrepreneur, and I was very, very active in the church then. I was a leader, and I had been leadership in churches and women's ministries for years. That's my background, is being leader in women's ministries and women's programs that dealt with incredible women who had gone through incredible abuse and just things like that. Um,
Mhm.
but that when I started to become an entrepreneur, and I can remember starting to go and do other research, reading other books, right, on entrepreneurship, and the I was challenged by what I was hearing and what I was seeing. So what I was seeing in some of the Christianity was I was not seeing the level of faith that I had read about, right?
Mm.
I was not hearing people, like I was hearing people shut people down, and I was like, well, because they didn't think it was right. I'm like, but you're not in their head. Who are you to tell them what the word says? But you don't know what God said to them. That's not our
Mm.
space to stop someone else. Our space is to support them and celebrate them. It's not for me to that's judgment, right? So that's where I started to, and that's how I started to evolve. And the curiosity was really to start asking God, what would you have me say? And one of the things that I've repeatedly heard said to me was that I just heard a sermon without scripture. So I asked God, because I knew that he wasn't just in a book in a building. So I asked him, how can I be that light, that power of who you are without using scriptural reference? Because I believe that we are meant to see him in everything. Like when you truly are walking a person of God, universe, divine, when you're aligned with that level, which is just love, you will find him. Like difficult people, there's no such thing. Like arguing with people doesn't make sense. That person is just challenging your character to see if you can find him in them. Because if you
Oh,
truly believe that you are who you say you are, then you can find that, you can find God in that person, because he's in everyone, everything, and everywhere. And it's your job as a human being to look God, universe, divine, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want to call it, your job to find him or her, whatever you want to say it is, in that moment, in that space, in that person.
okay. I'm now tingling. Thank you very much. Meshell, so this is again where I love talking with you, because you bring this joy, this and this love, that and you just shine it. You're the mirror for the people who have forgotten how beautiful they are.
Yeah.
And that's the true confidence igniter. That's the you rekindling the curiosity as to, oh, I kind of lost that feeling. How can I get that back and keep it and
Yes.
keep expanding on it? Um, wow, that is again one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on this program, on this show, because you are able to put into this enthusiastic way of um, clarification and crystallization that not many other people can actually do. And so thank you so much for gracing us with this time. I'm very, very excited for others to listen. Do you have any closing remarks or any final notes on how maybe you could, something that you could help people if they too are finding themselves in that ashes part before they rise like the phoenix?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. What I get most often asked is how do I get confidence, right? So, that's what people hear and they're like, how do I begin to grow my confidence, or how can I have more confidence today? And the first thing I tell people is, again, it's a deposit. Um, Confidence, the accelerator, what I find to confidence is gratitude. Generally what you're doing is you're saying something that doesn't work, or it's unfair, or it shouldn't have happened, or why did this happen, and that begins to erode your confidence in a circumstance, situation, or person. So when you begin to be grateful and trust that everything It's happening for you, not to you. It will change the lens of how it's penetrating and you're experiencing it in your body. Right? So calibrating your body to start to find reasons to be grateful. I'm grateful for hot mess people because I'm just like, oh, all right. So I'm the chief confidence igniter. So I guess today's the test that if I can actually ignite this person. I don't always want to be tested, but that's the beauty of our God universe. It's not about when you want to be tested, right? The timing is not your timing. It just is, right? And so again, I would say start with gratitude, because what gratitude does is it starts to change your perception of your circumstances. Start a practice of being grateful in the morning, grateful in the evening. That is the simplest thing that you could do, and it does not take long. 5-10 minutes. You know, my clients are required to do 15 minutes in the morning. And I would just say, if you're listening to this, just start with 5-10 minutes in the morning, 5-10 minutes at night. And I don't care what's on the list. Yeah, so you wrote it yesterday. Write it again. If you had running water yesterday and you have it today, you can write it again today, right? There's no such thing. You can't run out of reasons to be grateful. It's impossible. It's just that you're out of practice.
Oh, I love that. So the calibration to gratitude, and that gratitude is the currency of confidence.
Yes.
And that bringing love and appreciation that everything is happening for you instead of to you.
Yes.
Those, I think, are the key points that I really want to emphasize with, from our conversation here today. Meshell, again, I'm sure that we could keep talking for a very long time, but we have our time coming to a close. Why did you choose balloons for your background?
Oh, it's a celebration, right? So, and I think of life as every day I wake up, it's a party, right? Because they're like, to me, this is like, what are we waiting to celebrate? Like, I dance when I hear music, I hum and I sing where I am, I joke and laugh with strangers in stores, right? I harass people like I already know them. I'll be in a store and look at somebody like, oh, you going somewhere nice because you doing it today, girl, right? I don't have to know you. I just felt like in that moment, that's what I was supposed to say to you. I am so amazed at how many times I will do that to a stranger, and it's exactly what they needed. It would be exactly what they needed. Now, my ego will tell me not to do it, right? Oh, you don't know that person. You can't talk to people like that, right? But everything in me, but I don't, the ego no longer stops me. I'm intuitive. I am obedient to the prompts. And so I do the prompts. I call people, I text people, I send. People are just like, how did you know? I'm like, I didn't.
I didn't, but somebody else or something else did.
That's the beauty of life. When you get to that place, it makes life easier because then it starts to make sense. And it doesn't ever always 100% make sense in the moment. What makes sense is that you are part of a bigger tapestry, and it helps you to alleviate that it's all about you.
Yes, you are being the perfect vessel, the perfect conduit for that divine energy, for that divine inspiration. And you are allowing that to come through to share with everybody else. And that is how you light their candle, how you ignite their audience. Yes.
Exactly. And I think about meeting you at Orange Co-working. Oh, my heart skips a beat for that, right? With Shelley Delane, and how the energy that existed there and the people that would come through there were just a different kind of people. And you were that energy as well. Like, understanding that as long as whatever I emit, I attract. So why would I, I'm learning. I didn't learn this until I was an adult. So I tell people this wasn't talked about. My family still argues and wants to be right. And I tell people, I don't even care if I'm right, because arguing with you about being right changes my energy. I need my energy. I have work to do in this world. Right.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and die and it's like really hone in on that, because this is being recorded in a fairly, people may find this 10 years down the road. I don't know. But this current time frame that we're living in, we are in a history making time. We are definitely living in interesting times. And what you just said there is like, I need my energy. I don't need to argue with people. I'm just going to be the love that needs to expand in this world. May we all take that wisdom with us every day, in as many ways as possible. And when we fail, we can always come back to that and reignite that little flame and start dancing again to the music and being that confidence builder for others. Meshell, thank you so much. One final thing, what is the best way for people to contact you?
The best way to contact me is you can go to my website, Meshell, Meshell Baker.com. And on the speaker page, there's in there links where you can get on my calendar, or you can, my other favorite social channel is LinkedIn. So you can go link with me on LinkedIn and DM me, and I will respond.
Fantastic. So, well, I'll make sure that I have all of these notes in, in various places, so people will be able to communicate with you. If anybody is interested in chatting with me about feng shui or anything like that, I will certainly have my information down below. But most importantly, Meshell, again, thank you so much. Thank you for celebrating life and confidence and sharing your flame of joy with all of us. Yes. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You as well. Thank you.